camera's right in front of me, but the monitors are left and right. So you may see me turning my head a lot so I can see what the reaction of the audience is. So forgive me if I do that. I can't say that frontal is better than either profile, so it's bad no matter how you go. Thank you for coming today. We'll start with call to order and roll call.
Okay, Doug?
Here.
Christine?
Here.
Michael?
Here.
Marcus?
Here.
Vincent?
Here.
Mel? I'm sorry, Joel?
Here.
Senator Moriwaki?
Present.
Eugene?
Here.
Arnold?
Here.
Mai?
Here.
Garrett?
Here.
Anyone I missed? We have quorum.
All right, thank you. This is time for public testimony. Individuals may provide oral testimony at the meeting to submit submit written testimony in advance. We don't have any written testimony as far as I know. So does anyone wish to testify orally? All right, not hearing anybody. So we're going to go on to recap of the legislative session. So James Gonzer is here to give us a recap of what happened.
Well, hello everyone. Great to be here. It was a pretty exciting session. There's 4 main bills that we discussed in previous meetings that all were passed, all Senate bills. The Senate had their eye on us, obviously. And I guess we should discuss them one at a time if you want to, if we have anything to say. The first one listed here, Senate Bill 2516, I think is the most important. Oh, by the way, all 4 of these are before the governor now for signature. So that's the final step in the process of getting laws made. But the first one is about the chief information officer. All this bill is left to do is that it puts the CIO under the authority of the comptroller, and that's what's before the governor right now, whether he signs it or not.
Oh.
Now, there's been a lot of testimony on this bill, and I'm not sure what the governor is going to do, but does anyone want to talk on this bill?
I guess I'll say something.
Go ahead, Senator.
Mill, I think it's gone back and forth. The problem, I think, from the Ways and Means Committee chair was that there was no real board, and I think most of the commissions have boards, or they're either directors of a department, or boards and commissions have some kind of governing authority, and so it went back and forth. And I think the positive part of this is that it's still an appointment from the governor, but there is a department, and I would say it's more like reporting to the comptroller, would be like administratively attached to the comptroller, so that there is an administering agency, so to speak, to which the CIO would report. So I don't know, Doug, what that relationship would look like, but as I see it, it hasn't been changed that much, other than having the reporting requirement there, but the appointment is still by the governor, and you still have the independence, I would think, of the OETS agency.
Right. Yeah, I think that the changes are mostly good changes from the original bill, and the issue will be left is, is there a line of authority through the comptroller that has to be gone through whenever ETS decisions are being made, and that'll just have to be worked out through the next CIO and the comptroller and the governor if necessary.
And I think it's a working relationship, Doug, and again, what can be a clear pathway? I mean, it's easy now with Keith there as a comptroller, but in terms of it being Keith and a way of working through the procedure and how you get your budget, for example, or what kinds of decisions can be made as an independent entity supporting the departments needs to be worked out. But I think if some of those things that you can outline so that I guess that there could be a clear pathway for whoever succeeds you, so that decisions that need to be made more promptly, more programmatically, can be done more independently than having to have everything go through, the comptroller.
Right. Okay, good. Let's go on to the next bill.
Okay. Senate Bill 2287. This is the one that directly affects this committee. This is the one where it asks that the committee looks at developing a plan to enhance and increase usage of the Hawaii.gov mobile application. So it asks, I'm imagining that we give a presentation to this committee, someone from ETS, to talk about what the situation is now, and then you guys can think about it and come up with a plan or however you want to work it. But that's basically what this bill does. Would anyone like to comment on this?
Hi, James, this is Christine. I
Hi.
just wanted to make sure hi there. I heard you correctly, because this is requiring the ITSC to do something in support of the CIO. And so did you just say that the staff right now is going to put something together and then put it before the ITSC to discuss together, and then the ITSC can take a formal action based off of the input from the ETS staff?
Basically, I believe we should have someone give a presentation to the committee. How it works after that, I'm not sure, but at least you'd have the information then about where we're at now, and whether we need or don't need a mobile app application, and how it could work, or the workings of it. I'm not sure what you guys would do with that information.
But I think the answer is yes, the staff will have to present. And because it becomes a permanent part of the ETS statute, it will be an ongoing duty. So it may be something you take a regular look at, like every year or every 6 months, but it is something that becomes a permanent responsibility of ITSC.
Okay,
Just-
thank you,
just-
Doug.
Just a comment in relation to Christine, your question of what the ITSC should be doing. I think the ITSC is seen as our linkage to the community. So if this is a mobile app that we would like the community to use and see as useful, I think it's that kind of comments that might be helpful. Staff would do the work, of course, but it's, with that interchange with the ITSC is it helpful? Is there something else we could be doing? I think that was the idea behind having the ITSC more involved in this mobile app that should be used by the public.
Thank you, Senator. That's very helpful. Is there a sense of timing? I mean, I know the bill hasn't even been signed yet, so I guess maybe the next step would be is the next ITSC meeting. If the bill is signed, maybe we could, talk about deadlines so it doesn't creep up on us all of a sudden. But thank you.
Okay, any other comments? All right then. The next bill, Senate Bill 2782. This, what this does is it extends the consolidation. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is the one about Office of Language Access to develop multilingual accessibility standards. And it requires ETS to hire a program manager to run this. So what this is trying to do is make state websites available to people of many different languages. And it's looking at how to do that in hiring a program manager and working with the Office of Language Access to see how this could all go together. And then ETS has to file a report before the next legislative session, if all that can be done in time, that is. So that's what that bill's about. Any comments on this one?
I will just comment that we're hopeful that our artificial intelligence or synthetic intelligence, like I prefer, will be able to solve some of this problem in terms of being able to translate websites on the fly fairly accurately. But there are a lot of things we have to work out before we can do that.
You know, just throwing this out there, and not promoting or anything, but you know, I just talked to eWorld, and they showed me a application AI that can generate. I mean, it's like immediate translation. So you know, this seems like a formidable task of having to have all the different languages translated, but I saw the application that you can use various languages, and it's already there, in fact, with the bots and whatever. That's way beyond my knowledge, but seeing, you know, the application, it's very it's what can be done is, you know, it's really exciting to see, and you know, how we could use that kind of technology to make government much more efficient, much more responsive. So I don't think it's really that far off, or it will take that long, as I see the technology already developed. So
Yeah, we actually have had a language translator just on the ETS website for several years now. So you can go up there and see our translated website, but we have gotten comments back from people that, you know, a Spanish speaker wouldn't say it the way that the computer translates it, for example. So we think the artificial intelligence version will start to do a better job of translating things in context, which is where the problem tends to be right now.
The technology is really amazing, and you can get some pretty competent translation, even though they may not be as good as an expert human speaker. I do think we need to think a little bit about accuracy and correctness, because that's a real problem hiding in the wings for businesses in terms of liability when their tools give bad information to their customers. And so we need to think about that.
Well, the Attorney General has been pretty clear that there are certain portions of the websites that designate or articulate policy that has to be translated to meet legal standards. So certain areas can be easily done by AI chatbots and translators, but there are other sections that we would have to run by the Attorney General just to get their opinion as to whether the technology is doing a good job.
Okay. Any other comments there? All right, the final bill is Senate Bill 2526, and this is the one that extends the Consolidation Working Group. They filed a report at the beginning of this legislative session, and it is posted on the ETS website. It's a mammoth report about consolidating state online services, and it's, I don't know, it's about 100 pages or more, but you can see it there. But this bill extends it for a couple more years to keep up their work and to keep meeting and to follow it, to make sure, I don't know, things get done. So that is what it does. It extends that group for another 2 years. Any comments on this bill?
I'm not familiar with the that working group. Could someone send me the list of members for that group?
Yes, of course.
James, I have a question. This is Christine regarding the working group, because I know that I've looked at the report, and it's very robust. It's very rich. There's so much information in there across the departments and ETS about the amount of IT initiatives that are actually going on. Was the purpose of the bill? So the plan was submitted in December. So what's the plan for the next 2 years? Is it to implement the plan, or is it to update the plan? Was wondering if there's any expectation by the legislature to implement the plan now that the plan has been submitted, and I guess submitted but means it's approved. Just would appreciate thoughts on that.
We can put that on the agenda for the next meeting. It's not really in scope for this meeting because we're just talking about the fact that the working group has been extended, but the governor has not yet signed that bill.
Hmm.
I could say a little bit about the thought behind this, and in the and I haven't seen the total report yet, read it, so I can't speak to what the working group produced. But the idea on the consolidation was that we would have across the board some consistent applications. And for example, the one that's always given is that if we can make government more efficient, you'd have one entrance where somebody would give their name and all their information. They don't have to do it when they go to Labor Department or DHS or DOH for services. But it was looking at what are those kinds of data sets that could be across the board information that can be used from one so it'd be seamless for the user, the community constituent using it. So this bill was to look at what are those data elements, I think. What are the critical elements across the board that should be encapsulated? Each department has their own data sets with all kinds of requirements. UI has its own versus DHS. So, but what are the critical elements that should be preserved and stored and not get lost? And what are those critical elements? So I think that's kind of the focus of this bill, of adding it in on what the working group has already come together on, and that it's a working group, so they know each other, they know their programs, they've been working together. So what are those elements that should be protected, I guess, and stored properly?
Thank you, Senator. Any other comments on this bill? Okay, well, that's the end of my part of the agenda, and those were the primary bills. There were others, of course, but these are the ones that were the main focus of the session and ETS. So thank you very much. Doug?
All right, thank you, James. Now we're going to have a report on the state information technology strategic plan with Todd Amura.
Good afternoon, IT steering committee members. My name is Todd Amura with BTS. Just a quick update on our efforts to on our updating of the state IT strategic plan. We've been taking a look at different ways of how to get this done. Now that we're I guess we see it as a pretty short time frame leading up to December when it's due, but also considering the leadership transition. I think it's safe to assume that the incoming CIO should be an instrumental part in the process. In addition to, and thank you, Christine, in addition to consulting with Transform Hawaii government, seeking their counsel and advice, we've also had some ideas from our IT research and advisory consulting partner, Infotech, on how we could possibly do it. We're looking at potentially doing a phased approach where we would focus on the existing plan and I guess you could call it making, some tweaks to it. As things start to solidify, we have the new CIO come in, get his or her, settled in, and as part of the process, that'll give us some time to make sure that we actually meet the requirements of the mandate to update the plan. But that second phase would be to extend that and look at possibly doing making it broader and incorporating perhaps some significant change. But the key is to make sure that we have enough time to give the incoming CIO, his or her full efforts into participating. Goes without saying that the IT steering committee will be part of the process. So as we continue to make progress, we'll continue to keep you folks updated and also involved too in the entire update process. So that's it from me. And any questions?
I do have a comment. This is Gene. I do have a comment. When I read the current plan, it felt very aspirational. You could say timeless. It gives no sense of what needs to be done and whether some of the things could be done. It doesn't give a sense that it has an idea that certain things could be accomplished. And it would seem to me that part of the plan is also to ensure that it can be achieved. And I don't see any clues of that in the current plan. So I'd like to kind of understand if that's really an essential part and whether it should, how we would include that in the plan.
So yeah, that particular the comment that you just made, Eugene, is been a recurring observation or even feeling amongst the current staff and the people that we work with is, over the years that we're looking at it and we're looking at, it really is things that we, moving forward, what we could do, what we feel that to make it more effective is to start, I guess, crystallizing these, the activities and when they're supposed to happen, and attempt to move from the aspirational down to, it's not an operational plan, but at least put in some enough definition and a time frame where we could track progress and how we're doing over the next few years. So yeah, it's definitely been one of the comments or suggestions of how we can improve this next iteration of the strategic plan.
Yeah, I would want to say it more strongly, right? To have a plan that's still valid at the end of the cycle because nothing's accomplished, it's really a waste of time.
Oh yeah, and also too in the entire our approach to it, we're embracing the idea that the planning process itself will be really valuable. So we're also looking forward to engaging the stakeholders, getting everybody focused again, moving ahead. So yeah, absolutely want to make sure that this is a valuable process that benefits as much folks as we can, and of course the constituents, the state. Right, that's what we're looking for.
Might like to say something. Sorry, I'm talking so much, but it's it's great to have the ITSC and Doug. I really appreciate all the work you've done in this transition. I hope that Todd, you folks keep it going and being expansive. On the one hand, the lesson that I learned this year, and not to bring up the sore subject, but is that what is OETS's role in the state. We looked at one project that failed in a sense. It did fail, and because legislators didn't quite understand the role of, I think, did not understand the role of OETS versus the line department, that the user department that had their requirements of how they worked with the community, or their program, whether it was unemployment insurance or DHS, or in this case with the financial system, that it was really clear when we had a briefing that OETS was a support staff agency, and the department needed to step up to the plate to say, I'm going to give you my staff who are going to use this in order to actually accomplish the task in hand. And I think that through that, it was really made clear of what OETS's role is and should be. You know, if it's cybersecurity, that's a support function. If it's to help us scope a contract and look at what's needed and the protections of the state, that's an ITS consultation. If it's business re-engineering, that might be something that OETS can do, but it's not to develop that contract and be responsible for that contract. That goes back to a line department. So I think, you know, in terms of what you're saying of something much more not an operating plan, but operational in terms of saying what is OETS's role and how it can it be supported in a way to support the departments, I think would be helpful to see in that respect, so that lines of responsibility are clearer and what can be accomplished is clear. And I think it would be much more effective for departments to know that, so that they work in partnership with OETS rather than, oh, well, OETS didn't do this. Well, OETS wasn't responsible for doing it, right? So it would be helpful to get the ITSC comment in on that, because you've worked in different arenas, but looking to see what does OETS or what does a IT program do as a tool, vehicle, a support staff function to make the operating departments much more effective. So I think that might be helpful to include in a strategic plan, so that we all understand what OETS's role is and should be in relationship to the responsibility of the user department. So that's my 2 cents, sticking to it.
No, that's very good. That's a very good input. I think, you know, the perspective of the legislature sure is something we need to make sure we account for.
Doug, I have a question for you and or Todd. Given if the state's not sure when the CIO is going to come on board, what is the strategy for continuing to start updating the strategic plan? Is there a plan to kind of go so far and do some initial interviews and environmental scan up to a certain point, or to wait, or, you know, how can the ITSC be helpful during this transition time? And I do see that the next meeting is in August, and so that's, you know, December comes up pretty quickly to deliver a plan to the legislature. And so, you know, in the absence of at least permanent leadership, how can we help you and ETS achieve this goal?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a lack of a CIO for very long, and there will be an interim CIO, you know, if there is. So we'll talk about that in a minute under the CIO transition topic. But there are interviews going on right now for a new CIO, and I expect the selection will be made probably even before I leave, which will be May 31st. But I don't know how long it'll take to get that person in place. In the interim, the governor's office has a plan to appoint an interim CIO. So everything will keep going, and part of the reason, you know, Todd has got this is because he's the head of IT strategy and governance. So they've actually been working on this since probably last January or February. And they'll continue. Then nothing will stop.
Thanks, Doug. I appreciate that, and have had the opportunity to talk to Todd and UC, and ITSC's interfaced very little on the strategic plan, and yet it's in our kind of charter to help support the development of that. So I guess my request to ETS is, if there is work going on, you know, to really reach out to ITSC at the appropriate time to see how we can support those efforts, since we are a public-private, pretty diverse stakeholder group committed to supporting you. We'd like to be brought in earlier rather than later. And so, thanks for that consideration.
Sure. Would you, there's possibility to create a small committee, which would be called a permitted interaction group of ITSC members that are particularly interested that would like to engage with the planning group that's doing the strategic plan. So is that something you'd be interested in, Christine?
Yeah,
Something we should
yeah.
consider?
Yeah, I think it's worth considering, and I'd love to hear from the other ITSC members. I know for those that were involved in the last strategic planning process, the ITSC members were pretty active and involved, and they're really there as a broad stakeholder group to help develop a meaningful IT strategic plan. And so, if there is interest in and a desire by other ITSC members, and I think that would be a great idea. Don't all speak up at once now.
Hey, Christine. Yeah.
Okay, so this is Gene. I
Oh, go
think
ahead.
it's
Go ahead, Gene.
worthwhile to explore. As probably the newest member to the ITSC, I'm still trying to figure out how things get done. I'm very concerned that we meet less than once a month, and I don't know if we can be very effective helping out with just one meeting a month or at the most, right? And we're taking a buy until August. So I think having ways of working on some of the issues besides a once a month meeting would be very helpful.
Yeah, so this is Marcus. Hey, Gene, I'll follow on to that with, obviously with the PIG, right? If you form the PIG, and my concern is that with, an interim CIO and no formal CIO, obviously I would want whoever's coming into that role to have, a say in where it's going. What I would hate to see is that the PIG get formed, we start to go down a path, and then the new CIO come in and have a different vision of what this strategic plan becomes, right? And that's my only concern of that. We've done this a number of times. A few of us have been here for a number of years, and I would hate for us to do that and put that effort forth and waste that time, right? So as there's nothing worse, in my opinion, for us to get very excited and put a lot of energy into something and then get it derailed very quickly, and get off to the wrong foot with the new CIO as they come into that. So I would just caution that if we have the opportunity to wait for just a moment to get the new CIO in place and then get that PIG going very quickly with them, I would say that that's where I would want it to be. I think there is a core group of members here that have in the past jumped full well into it, that would like to work with whoever new CIO is that comes in, to make sure that there is a success going forward with that strategic plan. I think we are invested in the interest of seeing OETS be successful and find its role, enabling the state, right, going forward, and finding its place here. So I would love to have that go forward and be successful in it, but I would just caution that going forward without that person in their position, and again, right, I'd hate to be that person coming in and stepping into the new role and being, oh wait, you have a number of individuals that are already dictating to me what my vision is supposed to be. So I would just caution that maybe we temper it a little bit and slow down. But I don't think we can wait too long, because to Christine's point, December is going to be on us in before we know it. So if we think that we're going to have an appointee and that's going to get approved very quickly, then I think we can wait. But that's my feedback there.
Yeah, we can we're not tied to the August meeting date either. We can encourage the new CIO to schedule a meeting, promptly after taking office, so maybe at 30 days or something. They may want to meet with you all individually before they have a group meeting. So I hate to take away the discretion that they would have on how they want to approach that.
Yeah. Hey, Doug, I have a question. I know that a lot of us were appointed and nominated by different individuals. Would the new CIO, I was actually going to ask, would the new CIO be interested in meeting with us individually, and how much say, does the new CIO have in who's on the, ITSC, right? And, would they want to, have interaction with that? Because I know that we rotated out a couple of members, right? And there's new members, and, I think there's been some discussion about the makeup of the ITSC and whatnot. I don't know if this is the right forum for that, but, I don't know if there's discussion around that or whatnot, but I would think that they would want to meet everybody here and kind of go through that and have, that opportunity to, and maybe that's the next topic, right, of the office CIO transition. Maybe that's a good segue into it, but I would think they would want to talk to us at some point, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think that normally the people that are making appointments have people in mind or don't have trouble finding interested parties, but there have been a few times when we've been asked to provide suggestions. But we've never asked anybody to be thrown off. So there's never been a flush protocol in effect.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go into the next topic, which is the Chief Information Officer transition. So as you probably know by now, my last day will be May 31st. A lot of you may recall that I was leaving at the end of the EGA administration, but was asked to stay on a little bit longer. So this has been my little bit longer, and I've really enjoyed all the work that we've done together. And it was a boisterous legislative session, but I think we came out okay. A lot of, learning between the legislature and the executive branch on how things should work and where we went wrong. And I think, a lot of good discussions came out of that, even though it was kind of painful. But I'm not leaving because of that. I'm leaving because it was always planned for me to leave about this time once they asked me to come back for a while. So, yeah, nobody forced me out. I'm happy to go back into retirement and spend time with my little dog and all my hobbies. So he'll be happy to see me every day. He always gives me a look when I walk out the door. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a plan to put an interim CIO in place if necessary, and there are interviews going on right now with CIO candidates that I believe will wrap up early next week. And then it'll be a matter of coming to an agreement with whoever their first choice is in terms of, all the conditions of employment. So they're getting very close, and it may be that by the time Friday comes and I'm ready to go, they'll be prepared to announce the new CIO and my departure kind of together. And then if necessary, we'll have an interim. And I assume there'll probably be some time where there'll be an interim CIO. Any questions on that?
No questions, but congratulations on your well-deserved retirement, Doug. Thank you for all you've done.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Doug. Really appreciate your
Same here.
service.
Yeah, we put a picture, we didn't necessarily realize how many awards we had won in the last few years. And then we put them all in one place, and it was it was a wonderful thing to see. So I think there is a picture on the homepage of ETS in one of the top rotating slot that shows all the trophies. So I encourage you to go up there and look at that and look at the story. We've really had a lot of national recognition for cybersecurity and for safe travels and for other things we've done, even for citizen services where we've made some big changes and some good progress. So take a look. I think you've been part of something really excellent, and it's only going to get better.
Well, I do
Thank
want
you,
to say
Doug.
thank you very much, Doug. I know you've been through the up and down of the pandemic and bringing, safe travels so quickly on board. Really, I do appreciate all you've done. So, and you've given us good staff to work with and gone through the consolidation as much as we pushed it to be able to have all the departments involved. So I do appreciate all the work you've done for us. So. Mahalo, mahalo, mahalo.
Yeah. I'm also really proud of the relationship that we have with all the departments. There's a lot of good working cooperation, and it's rare that we ask them to work with us on something and they say no. They almost always work with us, and we come together and we make things better. So I appreciate our staff and the department's ability to work together and make things better. Couldn't have done any of this without all of the great people in ETS and also in the departments. We did just start an awards program this year. The National Association of State CIOs has an awards program that has, I think, 10 categories. And they're in different areas like cybersecurity or citizen services or identity management. And so we've created a parallel awards program in the state of Hawaii. And we just went through the first round of that where we asked for nominations. We had nominations in 6 of the categories, and we're going to make awards in each category. And then we're going to nominate some of them for the national award with the National Association for State CIOs. So we've aligned our awards program with theirs, and we will use these packages that were prepared to be part of the national. We did win last year the National Cybersecurity Project Award from NASCIO. So hopefully by doing this project, we will shine a light on some of the great work that's being done in technology and digital government in the state of Hawaii, and also, give people recognition they deserve. So that's something new this year, and you'll probably be hearing more about it. We just finished selecting the winners, and we have to put them in the package going up to NASCIO by Friday.
Very good.
So that was a good of the order announcement. And now we'll have next meeting right now is scheduled for August 22nd, but we will encourage the state CIO, the new CIO, to reach out to the members individually, and then maybe have a meeting of the group, early in his tenure or her tenure. Any other comments?
Oh, thank you.
Okay,
Just wanna
we're gonna
thank
have an
you once
adjournment
again,
then.
Enjoy your
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks,
very
retirement.
everybody.
much.
Thank you.
I'll be around. I
Thank
hope
you.
to see some of you around.
Mahalo.
Take care, everyone.
Aloha.
Mahalo.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.